Hi, my name is Zach, also known as like 808 Cuck and Quaid on in the Japanese learning community. And this video is gonna be very long, so take a seat, get a drink. Got my tea here, and that was it. It's okay, I got another one. This video is gonna be about my experience um studying abroad in Okinawa for 1 year. I came in September, and right now it's August 16th, and I'm leaving in 4 days. Um, what else? What else should I say? I'm originally from a very small island in Hawaii, like not the main one, but like a little bit off from it. It was just a really small town. There's just really nothing there but like coffee fields and stuff. And anyway, and yeah, and I've been studying Japanese for about 5 years, almost 6 years now, I guess. Most of it using Ajat, but I have a little bit of a different story that I'm gonna go into in a second. So I have some notes here. Anyways, if you want the short story is that this study abroad was the best decision I ever made for personal growth, and if you have the time and you're still like, you know, you feel like you have the leeway to do it, I seriously suggest you do it. It will change your life. Anyways, now on to the long version. So I'm gonna start with my experience learning Japanese. So basically, what happened was I was going to a community college in my hometown, and it was just stupidly easy. I had so much free time; it was just absolutely ridiculous, and I was spending all this time playing, video games, and most of them were JRPGs. And one day I just had this epiphany, like, wow, I'm playing way too much video games, like way more than I should, and I'm not doing anything, and it doesn't feel like I'm growing as a person. And I thought to myself, like, if all these games are JRPGs, like most of the companies are Japanese, right? So, I mean, if I maybe study Japanese, I could play the games in Japanese, and then they would playing games would suddenly become productive. Because I still want to play games. I just want an excuse to play games, right? So, uh, yeah, it started as a hobby. I wasn't serious about it at all. But it was kind of funny because I learned kana in like 2 days. I would just like in class, I just had this app and I just quiz myself all damn day to recognize them. Just pum 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 like just all day just on this app. And I was 18 years old at the time. I'm 24 now. Um, and what else was there? Basically, during this time, I found Ajat, and though I had never succeeded in learning a second language before, it really aligned with what I wanted to do. It was just like, you learn by doing it, and that's what I wanted to do, right? The whole point was to learn by doing video games, and I was like, oh, I don't have to wait, I can do it now. So basically, what I did was I didn't really understand the concepts though. Like I didn't do passive immersion, and I didn't really do a whole lot of Anki or anything. But the one key concept I did understand was that it's never too early to start doing doing things in Japanese because it's real Japanese. And then, I would study on the side, right? I would quiz myself on the side and stuff. And so basically, I just decided, I'm never gonna play another game in English until I'm fluent in Japanese. If I watch anime, it's gonna be in raw, but that ended up being really hard to do. So I kind of cheated and watched a lot of English ones, but games for the most part, I did all in Japanese. Anyways, so I was immersing about a quarter what a normal Ajatter would probably immerse for about 3 years, and honestly, I got pretty good. As far as like understanding goes, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but at this time, I met someone who's still my very good friend to this day. I was in a reading group. We did like readings of manga because I was trying to figure out how to read and I just couldn't get it down. And during this time, this guy, he was just like, hold on a sec. Mm, he was just like, I just couldn't believe how good he was. Um, like thinking now, he was like around Matt level. His pronunciation wasn't as good as Matt's is now, but it was pretty damn good. And he probably knew more Japanese than Japanese people did, honestly. Like I know that his speaking obviously wasn't like his what is it like his like he couldn't quite get it going as good as like Japanese people can. But that's how it is with a second language, right? But he was really really good. Like, and since I had never seen anyone that good besides cats, and I had never even really seen cats speak, it was just absolutely mind blowing how good he was. And he told me that he was looking for students for free. He just wanted to teach people, and he knew about this book they used in college called JSL. He had, by the way, this guy, he wasn't good for no reason. He lived in Japan for 5 years and worked at a Japanese software company for like 2 or 3 years. So I mean, his life was Japanese for a while. Um, and anyways, but he had learned from that book and he swore by it, and it was awesome. We didn't by that point. I was pretty good at like grammar. Like I could understand relatively well. So we didn't do any of the grammar drills or anything. We would just do the like we would do a lot of shadowing. We would do like and his girlfriend's Japanese too, so she would come on and help us and correct me and stuff. And basically we would just do a shadowing like 2 times a week, 3 or 4 times a day. Sorry, 3 or 4 hours a day. And we would just hammer those drills so hard. It was thinking back, like I cannot believe I like was just like had the um stamina to do that. It's just insane to me now, but back then I did it, man. I just had that kind of time. um, so anyways, fast forward. Sorry, this is getting really long, but uh, fast forward a little bit to about 2.5 years ago. I took the N2 and I passed. God, I passed with like I had gotten really into light novels at this point, and I was reading a lot of light novels, like a lot of them, and they were pretty easy light novels, but like I was just like blasting through, like I think there's one point where I read like 4 light novels in a month, which is pretty good for someone who's just getting used to reading light novels. I would read them like all day, and uh I took the N2, and I remember I passed with like I didn't get a crazy good score or anything, but like I passed with like I remember in the reading section there was like 30 minutes extra. I just sat there for like 30 minutes and I like took a nap or something. And it was like stupid. And then sorry, that's not really braggy, but I'm telling you, man, the test is really easy. It was kind of a disappointment how easy it was, but uh I what was I getting to with that? Around that time, so I just passed N2. Well, I didn't know I passed it at the time yet, but around that time, it was starting to dawn on me that like when I would read like Japanese like Wikipedia or like play games in Japanese, it was just so much more of a pain in the ass than English. Despite the fact that I'd been studying for like almost 4 years, I was like, why is this so much harder still? Like like part of my brain would like just be screaming like, dude, just read it in English. like like why was it so hard? And like I was just thinking that, and around that time I saw Matt's 2 hour video, or 3 hour video, and I kind of realized like all this time I had been doing like half-ass AJAT. I hadn't really Anki'd. I made like at this point I'd maybe made like 3,000 cards or something. Like I'd just been like straight immersing and doing it like less than half as much as the average AJAT, or probably a fourth as much as Matt was. And I just kind of realized that the reason that everything was still hard was because I just hadn't put in the effort to make it not hard, you know? And that was when I really, so about 2.5 years ago, that was when I really cranked it into gear. I decided, you know what, I'm in a couple years, I'm gonna get fucking good. And um, I just immersed all the time. Um, I had been working at that point. I had been working like I dropped out of college for a while, and I was working for my parents' farm. And I thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I thought I was just going to work for a family business, but it was good money, but I fucking hated it. It was awful. It was just like it was nice because I could like immerse while I was doing the job. It didn't really take much brain power, but God, there's just so much like blank spaces. Like a lot of like there's a lot of stuff that will just have you doing overtime all the time. Um, it was just and there's just it was just a lot of pressure for something I didn't even really like doing, and so I went back to school and got a part-time job, and yeah, um, from there it was just all the time immersing as much as I could, all the passive, reading a bunch, just watching anime constantly, like reading the net constantly, and by the time I was leaving for Okinawa, I'd say my listening was like pretty much like I'd already got the fluent tag from Matt. I'd made a couple of videos of me speaking Japanese, even though I'd never really outputted, and I guess he liked them. And one day I just had the tag for some reason. Um, those videos are gone now. They're kind of embarrassing to look back on now. But mm, hold on a sec. I hope this isn't too long. Anyways, so I started going back to that community college again, and uh, by that point, I was I was pretty good at Japanese, and in Hawaii, it's really hard to not meet Japanese people. Well, that's kind of a weird way to put it. Like there's a lot of people from Japan in Hawaii, and there's a and Japanese studies at University of Hawaii, and my school was a sister branch of University of Hawaii for people from outer islands, and the Japanese department, like Asian studies, is humongous, um, at those schools. It's ridiculous. A lot of research comes from there, and uh, basically, um, I forget how it happened, but I sort of caught their attention. I caught the attention of some of the teachers because in where I'm from, there's like a lot of Japanese people, but they're all like fourth, fifth generation. They don't none of them speak Japanese. Like all my friends are like that. Like they're all like fourth, fifth generation, and none of them speak a word of it. And it's just really rare, especially like for me. It like people like white ass dudes like me are already rare in my hometown, so I already stick out a lot. And then like on top of that, like I'm like just like knowing Japanese is like what the fuck like. Anyway, so these teachers I caught their I think it's because I I was talking to Japanese like students or something. I caught their attention, and one of the teachers pulled me back and she was like, "Hey, will you join my class because I want to put you I think you should go and study abroad." And I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she was like, anyways, they really hooked me up, man. They got me an internship. I became friends with a lot of the staff like involved in that at my school. Um, and they really put me on, man. Um, I'm just gratefully indebted to them. They really, um, yeah, just for someone like me, man, they really like worked to get me where I am. And so anyways, and they gave me like a tutoring job too. Like now I think about it, they did like so much for me, for like it's kind of unbelievable. But anyways, and it just kind of happened. They just kind of like were like pushing me to go, like in a good way. They were like, you know, giving me the push, and all of a sudden I kind of just had a stack of documents and I signed them, and then I got a scholarship, and then I wanted to go to Tokyo, but I lost out on that scholarship. Which was the worst part is that it was just because my GPA was 1 point off. It went up right afterwards, but by then the sign up date was done, and nobody got it. Nobody got it. It was like I couldn't believe that, but I'm not now I'm glad I didn't go to Tokyo. But anyways, and so basically there was Nagoya, but I think I didn't know about that program, and I ended up and Okinawa has a really big relationship with Hawaii. I don't want to get into it because I'll make this way longer than it already is, but um, yeah. So basically, I ended up going to Okinawa just based on that, and uh, yeah, it's, before I knew it, I was just going. Um, so going into Okinawa, um, by the time I arrived, I had barely ever spoken Japanese. I did a 2 month internship at my school where I would interact with a lot of exchange students from Japan. They would come in like groups of like 20 to like 30 or so. I forget how many, but and a lot of them from Okinawa too. And they would come for like 2 weeks and then switch out, and then this would go on for like 2 months. But the thing is, like, it was a really, it wasn't like casual Japanese. It was like a really like I was sort of a counselor type, not really a counselor, but I people would come to me with questions, and it was a lot of the same shit like every time, and I would sort of just talk about like what kind of things to be careful for and like what we're gonna do today, like at the meetings, and like like the things we would talk about were very like locked, like they were very set things. So I didn't really have that much experience talking or anything, like honestly. Um, and man, it's kind of funny. So Okinawa doesn't really look like it does in the pictures, man. It's not really like the big city, but it's not Inaka, man. Let me tell you. I was very coming from a town like to put it this way. Um, the city I lived in, that's like a 8 mile radius of something, had twice the population of my whole island. Like it was, so to me, this was I was like, whoa, wow. And then I went to Tokyo, and my mind fucking blew out of my ass. But yeah, so to me, it was a big change. Even though it was an island, it was still an island, but it was like the environment was completely different. You know, like just riding the bus like made me excited. The fact that you could actually ride the bus like was like super exciting to me, which is kind of funny to look back on now. But um, yeah. So, anyways, and I had a good time. I had a great time. I did so many things. I did this thing called Jiken Support, where I like what did I do? Like for like Jikense, um Jikense. Wait, hold on. Like for people taking tests to get into college, I would like guide them around and make sure that they were at the right place, and God, we had like so many meetings for that too, where we just had to make sure that we all knew what was going on and what the program was and where everything. It was a really good lesson in like organizing things. Um, I I had a lot of harsh lessons in love. I'm not gonna go into that, but uh, I uh, I I joined this thing called I joined like two different kiyonbus, and I was in four bands at one point. It's kind of stupid. I've been playing drums for like 8 years, so it was really fun to me to be able to do that. It's really hard to find people to play with back home who are like good, and a lot of people in these bands were like really good. Um, by the way, side note, Okinawa has a fucking amazing music scene. It's really awesome. A lot of famous people come from Okinawa. I don't know what it is about Okinawa, but they just they know how to party over there at like live events, man. It's really fun. Um, And then what else? I joined Sholobu. I still can't do Sholo, but I it was I just made such good friends from that. Like I did so much stuff. I can't even like remember everything I did. It was like I did so much insane things. The classes were basically first semester, well, whatever. Uh, I'll just say it since I already said it. First semester was mostly classes aimed toward exchange students. It was all in Japanese. It was the highest level, but it wasn't like it's aimed towards foreigners. It wasn't that good. Second semester, I took basically all classes aimed towards Japanese people. It was very hard, but a very rewarding experience. And I did many other things that would just take forever to explain. So, anyways, Matsuri's, blah blah blah, like all that stuff. So anyways, now I'm gonna go to into things I like about Japan. Again, just a disclaimer. I'm going from Hawaii to Okinawa. Both of those places are very like bimyo, like like Hawaii's like yeah I'm American, but it's kind of like there's a lot of weird things about it. Same with Okinawa. It's not quite like you can't put it in a box with Japan all the time. It's pretty different. Uh, um, sorry, I have like notes here because I know I'm gonna forget all this stuff. Things I like about Japan. The food is awesome, and there's so much of it, and there's so much variety. And I know that Japanese like restaurants tend to not do foreign food very good, but even the foreign food that they do, even though it's like kind of like not authentic like at all, like sometimes they just do it their own way that just makes it delicious that you really can't find anywhere else. I really appreciated that. Um, and it's really cheap. The food is insane. It's insanely cheap to eat out compared to back home. It's really convenient. Even Okinawa, man, people complained about like the public transportation and stuff, and while it wasn't the best, it was like totally doable. I didn't have a car for like a year, though. If I stayed longer, I would have got a car. But um, yeah, I mean it's obviously easier with a car, but it's not like impossible with the bus. Though the bus is expensive. Anyways, uh, um, just convenience everywhere. You can walk to restaurants. You don't really need to if you don't feel like driving to a place, there's always somewhere close by that you can go. Um, I really like the layout of Japanese cities, just the way that they sort of like I really feel like that space between like stores and like living places, like you know those like big apartments and like I really feel like Hawaii could take some lessons from that, man, because we're an island and it works great in Okinawa, and we just do a really shitty job of it back home. Like, and you know, I feel like it's really balanced over here, whereas the balance is awful back home. There's lots of ways to hang out and meet people. Um, this is sort of a plus and a negative, but to me it was a plus because when you join like a club or something, they expect you to go to the events outside the club with them. Like all the numikais and all the um, like ensoku and all that like all of those activities you do outside. They expect you to be part of the group and be friends and work with everyone. And though that can be kind of annoying sometimes when you don't really like the people, like why are you in the club if you don't like the people? You don't have to be there. And I think it was a really good way to meet people and a really good way to enforce communication. And I really enjoyed it. I found that it was a really fun experience, and I like the way that Japanese people hang out. Back home, I don't know what it is. Like when people go drinking, they just want to drink in someone's house and get as drunk as possible and just talk or like watch anime or something. Like it's just really boring and stupid and like mindless. And you know, here there's like all kind of options. You go to izakaya, you can do like takunomi, you can do like you know like go bar hopping and it's easy because you don't have to drive. You can go you know uh like they just have all sort of fun games that people do when they drink, and even at the izakayas they have all these gimmicks that are really fun, and like I really liked it. I thought it was great. there's lots of challenges. Every day is a learning experience. You learn a lot about yourself and about Japanese culture and about your own culture just from like existing. You're like, and like every day it feels like you're growing as a person. I'm not sure how I would feel about that like after 5 years living here, but after the 1 year mark, I still feel like I just learn every day, and it's a great thing to do. Like I can feel the personal growth. And it gets you thinking a lot. It gets your brain working about just like what is what is like the definite like there's a lot of things in your culture that like you just assume is right or wrong or like um the way things are done, but it's like it makes you question those things. What's so I really do think that there are just great things about the culture back home and great things about Japan and Okinawa. And there's bad things about both, and we could learn lessons from each other. It's a really really good thing. So things I hate about Japan. I'm sorry. Just for disclaimer, um, I like Japan more than I hate it. There are annoying things, but there's also annoying things about back home that I don't like. That doesn't mean I don't want to live there. It doesn't mean I hate it. It just, you know, there's just those things that, you know, I think could be addressed and fixed, but nowhere's perfect. So just a disclaimer. Disclaimer. This isn't like meant to bash Japan. I don't think Japan is a horrible place at all. I think it's a great place to live, and I would definitely do it again. 日本人の日本人のね like um I've heard some funny shit, dude. like I remember there was one time where like I was talking to someone about how in like back home the expiration dates for food is a lot longer. Like the expiration date for Japan is really short. And just like hold on a sec. Like okay, it's like really short, and I just thought it was a funny thing. I was just he asked me, I forget what he asked. He asked me something about it, and I just sort of pointed it out, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's because our Japanese stomachs are weaker than the Western stomachs." And oh my god, I didn't. I tried my best not to react, but like in my head, I was laughing my ass off because like I'm a minority back home. Most people back home are Asian. It's like something like 60% of people are Asian, and on top of that, within that majority, the majority of people is like Japanese. I forget the exact statistics, but it's like 30% or something. Like so, all those Japanese people are eating the same like American shit that I'm eating with all the same expiration dates, and they don't die. And I thought that was so funny, and I realized that in Japan it's kind of hard to because it's like so homogeneous. It's hard for people to like to take the idea of nationality and race and like split them up. Because back home, like there's not even like really a majority. Like if there was a majority, it would be Japanese people, but it's like not. I don't even think it's more than 30% or something. Like it's like, and on top of it, like most people are mixed race, so it's like, so it's like, so it's like, so it's like to me like the idea of like your nationality, your race is a completely different thing. It's like you can be a certain nationality and not be that race. Like I'm not Hawaiian. I'm not ethnically Hawaiian, but I was like born and raised in Hawaii. And well, I mean, and there's no such thing as American race. So it's um, like it's just kind of. I found that really interesting. That just that idea. When I thought about it, like oh, like that's like because when I tried to explain things about back home to people, like, and it had to do with like things that were imported by immigrants, like I felt like people like didn't 100% get it when I would explain those things, and I kind of realized that was I. That's not a bad thing, by the way. This isn't part of the bad thing. I just thought that was an interesting tangent. I thought that was interesting how people sort of had trouble separating that idea. Um, I also do have a bone to pick with Japanese TV. The main perpetrator of these stupid ideas is that they just show they'll just straight bold-faced lie on TV, man. They'll lie about things that happen abroad. They'll lie about, like, oh, like people are amazed that the taxi door opens by itself. Like, no, nobody cares. People are like, oh, and that's about it. Like, nobody actually cares that much. Nobody that lives in Japan thinks Japan is that special. You know, it's just like, and it's not people's fault. It's just that they just they just play this circle jerk crap on the TV, and people believe it. And it's not. I'm gonna be honest. It's not that annoying. It doesn't come up that often, but when it does, it used to annoy me. Now it's just kind of funny. But I do think that some people, mostly people who have never been abroad and have only know about Japan, are pretty naive with stuff like this. They don't really realize how things are outside Japan and how some things just aren't really that special. But something, of course, there are very special things about Japan. I'm not trying to detract from that. Um, Also, number two, this isn't a thing that's innate to Japan. I think this is just sort of something that's about studying or just being abroad. Um, it's very stressful. Interactions are very stressful after a while, because when you think about it, you are an ambassador to your country. So like like if I'm first of all, I know there's like an image of like tons of Americans in Okinawa, but those guys live on the base. You never see them outside, only in like certain very small areas. You can walk around all day and never see a non-Japanese person or Okinawan person. Like, it's totally possible. It's not really what that media makes it out to be. And like like just like just knowing that, like, if I'm the first person, like if I'm the first American or first person from Hawaii or whatever, like, person that they've ever talked to, then I'm the only I mean that's a very, first of all, it's a very rare case, but I'm sure that there hasn't been a whole lot, like people, most Japanese people have talked to a lot of foreigners in their life. Probably there's a lot more foreigners in Japan than you would think, but um you're sort of an ambassador to the country, and you're contributing to the image of your home country. So that puts on a lot of stress because you're afraid of doing something stupid or rude by accident, or giving the wrong image. And on top of that, when you first come here, I'm still, even now, I'm still sometimes not sure what's right or wrong, or what should I do, or how should I react to certain things. And I've had a lot of miscommunications that led to people sending me long messages and me having to clear it up, or that led to things going south to some people. And I think you can't, it's just a thing. Like, you can't help it, but it's like it can be a lot of stress just every day, just having to deal with the fact that you're representing a whole country of people to whoever you're talking to. It can get stressful. Number three, waiting sucks. Man, Japanese people are patient, I gotta say. like you'll get out of club activities and people will just fucking stand around for like an hour, and just until one of the senpais, like, you're just begging yourself, like, please, somebody, senpai, one of the senpais, fucking leave, please, so I can go home. It's 12 o'clock and I want to go home. Like you'll be. One thing that was really funny about that I learned back home, if you're with your friends, you don't. When you go to McDonald's, you're there for like 30 minutes. You're not there for like 3 hours. I can't tell you how many times I've been at McDonald's for like 3 hours, and just nobody will get up and leave, even when the conversation has just run completely dry, and it's like 3 in the morning. Like, that drives me nuts. And it's a minor thing, right? Like, that's what you do to maintain relationships. That's how you make bonds with people. So it can be good sometimes, but when I'm with people who I don't really like, and we're just sitting around at McDonald's for like 3 hours, it's like, Oh my god. Wait, can we leave? Anyways, and also it's just hard to fit in entirely. I've been able to get into really tight relationships that were good with people, but it was hard. I gotta say. Not saying it's not possible though. It's definitely possible. Um, you get more into that later. How are we doing on time? 35 minutes, not bad. So, how do I feel about Japan and Japanese after studying abroad? Um, Japan is a great place. It looked like a great place from the outside, and I think it's a great place from the inside. It's definitely got its problems. Um, but I think one thing people tend to forget is that like like when you see sometimes you'll see some bad stuff like the way Japanese people can treat other Japanese people. Sometimes they'll get the cold shoulder or they'll be forced to do something that they don't want to do, or like there'll be that like dickhead senpai who like makes them cook cook the all the meat at the barbecue all the time, and it's like looking from like a foreign perspective that looks really harsh and cold and mean, but like you gotta understand, man. Like Japanese people know the score. They know what's expected of them, and they know what kind of risks they run in situations like way better than I do. And so like it may not seem fair, but you gotta understand that like people know the score, and they're working on fixing things that don't work very well. They're doing it in a Japanese way, but it's like I really think things are getting a lot better in Japan, and I think some people can be a little harsh on it. Um, uh, Basically, the way I feel about it is that before I left for Japan, I felt like I needed to go to Japan and I needed to see it for myself and I need to get it on my system and I want to live there forever and it looks awesome and I hate Hawaii and blah blah blah. Like, and now it's like, like yeah, it's a good place. It's got problems. It's got good things going for it. If I had a chance to live here, I would do it again. But it doesn't have to happen. You know, um, I'll work to make it happen. Sure, if there's a good opportunity, but um, I'm not gonna break my ass at some black company just to be in Japan. I want to make sure it's under good conditions and where I can be happy about where I am and happy about living there for a long term. So yeah, I would do it. I would also do Hawaii. I think Hawaii is really great too in some ways. And also, I'm not going back to my hometown. I'm going to the city part when I come back, so it's going to be another new experience for me where I'm going to learn a lot anyway. So I'm sort of excited to go back actually. Um, so I love studying Japanese, but no, it used to be the most important thing in my life. It used to be all I did. Now it doesn't feel like such a priority. I feel like I'm pretty satisfied with my level. Um, I want to focus on other things. I want to better myself in other ways. If there's something interesting in English, I'll watch it now. It's fine. Um, uh, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna do it more of at Matt pace where he goes hard and he does his studying but he works on his other things, and if there's something in English that's interesting or relevant to him, he'll watch it. It's fine. Um, I'm really glad I did this. It was I had some rough times for sure. Like there were some times where I hit the pit, and um, I almost gave up on Japanese in Japan, and I thought Japan was just a really shitty place, really cold, because I had some bad experiences. But like when I sort of dug myself out of it, I was kind of able to look at it more um, uh, like rationally, and I realized that these kind of things can be avoided if you're careful enough, and if I learned more, and it was a great learning experience to see what can happen, but also how to avoid these things. And you know, so it was a sort of Nick-like experience. I had something similar to Nick. It wasn't quite as dramatic, and it was a lot more. No, there was no like prostitution or anything going on, but um, you learn from these things, and in the end, it's like, do I want to stop studying Japanese just because a shitty thing happened to me? Like, no, dude. Like, like that. Just learn from it, make yourself stronger, and get out there, and that kind of made me realize that I like Japan and Japanese, despite the fact that something like that would happen. That would sort of disillusion me, and that I bounced back from it. It made me realize that yeah, I made the right choice. And also, I had so many good experiences, man. I made a lot of really amazing friends that I'll probably never forget, and probably most of my, well, some of them I'll probably never stop contacting ever. Um, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what I want to do, um, and it's just like, man, it's not even a thing you can put into words. You grow so much. Like I can't even imagine going home. Like I'm just a completely different person, man. Like for real. Um, a lot of my strong opinions. Oh yeah, sorry. I was like reading the notes, like straight, like reading the notes. So before I left for Japan, I used to have a lot of strong opinions about Japanese culture and Japanese and Japan and like the way you should do it and like Asia and blah blah blah. And I cared a lot about what people thought about my Japanese, because that was my identity, that was my thing. Nowadays, I what I thought was gonna happen was, I thought that I was gonna go to Japan and these opinions, one by one, were either gonna be confirmed or I was gonna find out that I was wrong and that was something else. But what I actually found was that I don't even remember what those opinions were, and I realized I just don't give a shit. Like I don't care. Uh, it was just what I found out was just not how different we are, but how similar we are, man. Like no matter where you go, like at least in the first world, maybe well, I don't want to say like first compare first to third or blah blah, blah, but like man, it's just all the same stuff. There's always that guy, there's always like, you know, that guy, that girl, that personality type, the Yankee guy, the girl that thinks that she's better than she is, um, the guy that like, that wears glasses and he's really smart, and like the guy that's really sharp, or the guy that's really shy and doesn't really want to talk. Like there's just all those personality like archetypes still exist, and yeah, they exist in a Japanese flavor, but it's like when you look at it, like just taking the filter off, it's like all this. It's just human, man. It's just all the same stuff, and it kind of made me realize that like man, we're just there are these cultural differences, but we all want the same stuff. We all want to be liked by our peers, and we all want to be successful, and we all want to make our parents proud. Well, maybe not all of us, but and we all just want you know what we think we want, and we're just going for it. And maybe we do it in different ways, but it's all the same stuff, man. It just, I don't really have all these crazy strong opinions on Japan like I used to. And same thing with the people's opinion. I don't really care what people think about my Japanese anymore. I used to be really intent on like being godlike, but like now it's just like, after living in Japan, it just becomes so normal that like it doesn't even like feel like a skill anymore. It just feels like life, and it's like, um, I don't know. Like you know your level, and you kind of realize nobody actually. If you can communicate and you can have meaningful conversations, and you can like do things for yourself, nobody cares how good your Japanese is beyond that. If you know big words, like congratulations, you probably won't use most of them in real life. It's like nobody, if they feel like they can make connections and be friends with you and have experiences, it's like nobody really cares. So why should I care? That being said, I do want to improve my Japanese for myself. I wanted to do a silent period when I got home, I'm living in the dorms, and I found out that my roommate is a Japanese guy, so that might not be happening. We'll see. And also, there's another. I found out that one of my friends is going to my university to study abroad for a year, so I'll probably be hanging out with him. Like, well, we'll see about that silent period thing, but I do want to improve. Um, anyways, so tips for studying abroad. Uh, don't take yourself so seriously. Um, that was a mistake I made. The first, like, because again, I had a lot of strong opinions when I first came, and like when people would ask me like dumb questions, like I would act like I wasn't offended, but in my head I would be like, wow, what a stupid fucking question. What the hell is this guy thinking? Like, why? Or like, I'd try to explain something about back home, and they wouldn't get it, and I'd be like, why don't they get it? Like, what's so hard? Like, it's because they're naive and they don't know anything, and it's like, dude, like there's just no need to take yourself so seriously, man. Like they're just asking. It's not like anybody's trying to be mean, or they're not asking stupid questions because they want to get a ruse out of you. They just don't know any better, and just let it be, man. Like I kind of learned that skill maybe after like the first 6 months when I kind of realized that nobody really had any bad intentions, and it wasn't like I'd get in huddles, and it's just like I'm a foreigner. I don't look like I speak Japanese, Like, it's, if you think about it rationally, like, the chances I don't are, like, way higher than the chances I do. And, it's like, there's no need to get offended over little things like that, man. Like, it kind of blows me away that people get offended by stuff like that now, like, honestly. Um, so number two, join a lot of clubs. Do as many activities as you can. This really goes without saying, but the first 6 months, I just focus so much on input and like trying to talk to people in class, or like you know like that's not how it works, man. um in Japan, they make it really easy for you. You join a club and you're expected to go to all the events, and they just they really um find human relations to be very important, and they will do a lot to make those human relations strong, and they'll do a lot to help you out, man. And you'll eventually find people that you like hanging out with, and they'll stick, and then the people that you didn't like, just they'll go away. Like, um, and also just if there's parties, I had an easy time because I lived in a building where they would throw parties like every weekend. I just go to all of them. Um, you know, you don't have to drink. If you don't drink, it's fine. Just go to the parties and hang out and meet people. It's fun, and you make a lot of friends that way. Um, So take classes with Japanese people if you can, um, and if it's not like too much of a detriment to your GPA. I didn't do this the first semester, and I kind of regret it. The second semester I did it. I took like I think 5 out of 7 was just normal Japanese classes, but I got my ass kicked at the end. I wrote a 28-page report for one of the classes, man, in Japanese. It was like the most brutal report I've ever written. It took forever. Sorry, report in Japanese is like an essay. We call it nipoto. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was really worth it, even though it was really tough. But that's what this is about, right? That's why you're here. Take it seriously. Um, think critically, man. Like there was a lot of situations where people did stuff that really hurt my feelings, and I really didn't like it, and or like where they did something where I just thought it was really weird, and I realized like about 6 months into people would do these things, and I would just dismiss it as weird, or like why are they doing that? Like Japanese people are so weird, like and but then like after a while it's like, okay, like I gotta figure this out. Like, how does this work? Why is this worth doing in a Japanese context? You gotta think to yourself like that, and when you start thinking like that, those weird things start to not surprise you anymore. And they kind of make sense, and it's like, oh well, if you think about it like this, then yeah, like yeah, that I'd do that too if I was thinking about it in that context. I'm not saying that you have to become Japanese or that you have to think in that context all the time, but like it's good to like just analyze these things, and like, and it's, I know it sounds really obvious, but it's a lot harder to do in practice than you would think, because there are gonna be things that'll happen to you where you'll be like, wow, dude, like what the fuck, like what, and like it'll be really hard to think about it rationally, but you gotta just think about it through a Japanese lens. Like, why would someone want to do this? What does this do for the group? What does this do to save face for someone else? What does this do how does this benefit everyone? Like you gotta start trying to think in terms of that to get what's going on around you. Um, yeah. I have this dumb note. I don't even remember why I wrote this. Learn Japanese. Lol. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Hospital? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote this. Yeah. Anyways, to wrap it up, I had a really amazing experience. I'm sorry. I'm so tired and I really didn't have time to make this like a good solid video with lots of notes and lots of things, bells and whistles, because if I don't do this today, it'll be like maybe a month before I make this video, and it just won't be fresh, and I'll forget a lot of this stuff, I think. So it has to be now, but I'm not in good shape. I've been to like 4 nomikai this week, and like, because I'm leaving and everybody wants to hang out, and like, I'm like just hanging out with people all day. I'm just exhausted, but I'm gonna try and power through it. Anyways, I'm gonna go on to the questions. There's quite a lot actually. So I'm gonna go to Miso asks, could you talk a little bit about the process of this is like the one with a bunch of questions. So I've thought a little bit about these questions, but I haven't written any notes on them. So hopefully I can do this. Could you talk a little about the process of applying? I'm sorry, I don't really remember it. It really happened really fast, and the teachers sort of helped me out a lot. Just one day, I just filled out all the basic paperwork. Sorry, with the office lady, and then one day she just gave me a big stack of papers. I filled all those out. I got like a health check. I just did everything she told me to. There was a box to check for scholarships, and I got the scholarships because Okinawa is like nobody goes there, so it's really easy to get scholarships, especially if you're from Hawaii. And I just did what they told me. I don't know what country you're. I think I remember talking to you before. I think you were from like South Africa or something. Yeah, I'd say talk to whoever's in charge of studying abroad. They'll usually know everything. And for me, all I had to do was do the paperwork and do an interview. And they asked me like one question in Japanese through the whole interview, and that was it. And then the rest of it was English. Just ask about it. Finding time to get a good GPA while embracing hardcore life balance, I guess, and how to manage that. Yeah, I had a pretty good GPA. Right now I have like a 3.5, I think. It's not great, but it's not bad. I don't know. I went to a community college. The people who went to a community college, man, it's just easy. It's super easy. I had a part-time job too, which was pretty stressful because I was working like 4 days a week. But it was like all nights. But like, still like, I just went for it whenever I could, man. If I felt like the lecture material wasn't important, I'd pop in that Nenret, and I forget what it was called, but that little earphone. And I would just wait, when something, I just passive immerse when something that sounded important came up. I'd pop it out for a second, write a note, and then pop it back in. When I was on campus, I would, during my free time, if I was walking around, the net I was in, or the headphone or whatever. When I was in the library, I was like reading light novels or watching anime or something, making sentences. When I was at work, I would sneak out and like read a little bit of light novel and then come back sometimes. Man, I hate to say it, there was no life balance, dog. I just pounded through. I didn't really do Anki, but God, just every second I had was Japanese. I was doing way more Japanese in my daily life than English, despite that I was going to college and working a part-time job. I don't really know how to answer that, man. Just every single free second that you think you can do it, do it. If you want to get good, that is. I wouldn't really talk to me about life balance because I had a horrible life balance with that kind of thing. Um, Also, while in Japan, did you study Japanese or English? And what are your afterthoughts on the decision to study that language? Ooh, this is a good question. So I studied Japanese. Well, yeah, like the first semester I just did classes for students learning Japanese. The second semester I did classes aimed at Japanese people to teach foreigners Japanese. Um, Both those were very interesting experiences. Yeah, the thing about in Japan, you don't really have to worry about immersing so much because your life literally is immersion, especially in college when you have to read like real papers in Japanese and like you know like a really thick ass prints and like be able to like talk about them in class and stuff. It's like you really get with the program. So my what are my thoughts on the decision to study that language? Um, hmm. Like looking back, it was a good idea, but I was really playing with fire. um, just like uh, back then, I really didn't know what I was getting into. I've seen it happen a lot. People learn Japanese to a high level, and they just find out that they hate Japan and it doesn't work for them, and they just wasted their damn time. And they don't want to do it. Like I've seen it happen. Uh, And it's like if it was something like code or something, or like some like math or like something useful, like with code, like you can apply that in a lot of places. Like say you don't like programming, you don't have to do programming, right? Like you can like coding is about learning how computers think and learning how to give computers instructions, and you don't just learn about code. You learn a lot about underlying computer concepts. And sorry, I used to be a computer science major, so I'm I'm still into this kind of stuff, but like it's not it's not a one way street, right? Like it's not like your only job is like translator and English teacher. It's like you can do a lot of things with that, and you can switch it to something else pretty easily. And computers are very important. Um, and it looks really good. It makes you look really smart. It's just like there's just so much more merit to something like that. So even if I did that and found out I didn't like it, it wouldn't feel like nearly as much of a waste. Of course, in the end, I found out I did like it very much, and I'm really happy I made this decision. And I think it really stretched my mind in ways that wouldn't have been possible without it. It made me grow as a person. So, hmm, yeah, it was a very good decision, but um, maybe I think I should have researched more what I was getting into before I did it. But I mean, yeah, it was worth it. Um, but nowadays I do want to move on to other things and learn new skills, so it's not the biggest part of my life anymore. Um, Also, maybe the impact of being in Japan on immersion compared to abroad. I mean, yeah, I don't even know if I have to say it. Just when you're hanging out with Japanese people most of the time, and your classes are in Japanese with Japanese people, and you still watch like Japanese dramas and anime and YouTube and all that, like um, yeah, you get a lot better. My speaking was pretty crap when I first came to Japan, just because I hadn't spoke a lot, but it just shot up like before I knew it. Like one thing I noticed was that the switch sort of I used back home. I used if I wanted to speak, if I hadn't immersed like all day before speaking, it would just be super rusty and crappy and weird. And like now, like even if I've been doing English for a while, the switch still flips. Takes about like 30 seconds to get back into the mode. And maybe if I had been doing it a while, like my pronunciation will be off and my it won't be quite as good, but um, it's a lot easier than it was when I was back home. I can feel that for sure, especially watching my old videos of me talking to a camera. Um, yeah. So this one's from Manji. Hey Zach. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, this is like all before crap. I remember seeing somewhere that you didn't use Anki during your first years learning Japanese. Can you elaborate on that? Did you simply immerse? Did you look up words? Looking back now, do you think using an SRS in combination would have been more beneficial? So yeah, I only made about six. What I did was I did the first when I first started learning Japanese. I did the first 2,000. Hold on, let me check this. Okay, I did the first 2,000 of the core 10K, and then that was it. I did like Wani Kanji for a while, but I kind of thought it was crap. And then I did like Lazy Kanji, and I tried to do RTK like 6 to 8 times. I've still never gotten past 1,000. I don't know how people finish RTK. I really don't think you need to do more than 1,000 RTK, honestly, because like by then you really know the fundamentals of how radicals work, and if you just learn how to write the radicals when you see a kanji, you can just look at it and write it instantly, and it's like just do that a bunch of times, you'll memorize it eventually. So it's like, why do you? I mean, I get this about the dictionary entries, but it's like I didn't feel like the dictionary entries helped me that much after like a while of not doing RTK. So it was like, why? I don't know. And I don't even feel like, even if you do RTK, I don't even feel like it's worth doing like more than 1,000, honestly. Sorry, that doesn't have to do with the question. So, anyways, after those 2,000, those lazy kanji, and those many failed attempts at RTK, I did make about 4,000 sentence cards. But by this time, I was reading light novels already, and I was making them from light novels, and then that was about it. Sometimes I make word cards every once in a while. Um, I have not been SRSing lately. Looking back now, do you think using an SRS in combination would have been more beneficial? Hell yeah. um, I think that if I had put in the same effort and been SRSing, I'd be a lot closer to mat level. I'm not really close to mat level. I do not feel like I have a bigger vocabulary than the average native. I feel like I have a good vocabulary, and I'm definitely fluent and can speak well, and I'm capable in Japanese society. I don't have a problem living abroad, but not at the level Matt is, man. Not at you know. If I had been SRSing, I would be way better. Um, but like, I want to say I regret it, but I don't, because I just don't think I would have done it back then. Like nowadays, I feel like I could do it. I could just put it in, and just shove it down. But um, back then, when I was doing it as like a hobby, and like even when I went hardcore, I just hated it. There's no way I would have done it. So would I have gotten better? Yes. Do I regret it? No. Um, okay, this one's from, I don't know how to pronounce this. Reisu? I don't know. Reysu. Uh, um, I'm going to be staying at a host family for the next 4 months shortly. Do you have any tips for improving my output? I've been studying Japanese for about 10 months, and I can understand a lot. Daily conversation is pretty easy to understand, but I haven't been practicing output that much yet. MIA says I shouldn't be outputting at all at this level. What do you think? Um, I mean, yeah, like technically you shouldn't output, but it's not. 10 months isn't. If you can understand a lot, 10 months isn't that bad. And honestly, if you're gonna be having this like amazing experience of being able to live in Japan for 4 months with a Japanese family, it's like fuck that. Like fuck. Like don't worry about what people say about outputting, man. Like don't waste this opportunity just because it's a little too early to output. Like personally, I think 2 years is the mark where people should output. Like depending on the level, obviously, but it's like 10 months isn't that bad. 4 months isn't that long. Matt went to Japan for 6 months and he outputted all the time. And he just did a silent period when he got back, and he ended up speaking very good. He speaks very well now. It's like it's damaged. It may be a little hard to fix, but it's fixable. It sounds like you have got a pretty solid base, anyways, and yeah, I think it's better um, to put this opportunity on the pedestal, and maybe fix your output afterwards. Um, I'd say it would be a mistake to not output. Unfortunately, I don't really have any tips for improving your output. I think input improves output, and if you just get a lot of input and then live in Japan and just talk a lot, then your output gets better. So I don't really think there's much I can say to maybe shadowing a little bit. Shadowing helped me a little bit. But that was more for like um, pronunciation though. So I don't really know what to tell you. Um, so this one's from Zoro. Zoro 20. Wait, sorry, my bad. Zoro. This one's from Zoro. um, uh, how far would you say living in Japan boosted your Japanese ability? If you were fluent before going, did you become much more native like by the end? Um, Much more native like. Like in a way, yes, but like I mean, that's what improving means, right? Like you sound more native when you improve. Like that's so I don't really understand the meaning of that, but how far would you say living in Japan boosted your Japanese ability? Um, Honestly, as far as input goes, um, I mean, taking classes in Japanese did improve that a lot. Like just having to think about terms in Japanese all the time, and having to like write it in Japanese afterwards, and like having like the thing is, I think that there's the key thing about Asia is that the reason you have to do it all the time um, is because part of you know that feeling like when you really don't want to do your essay, like your body is just resisting so hard, but once you and like or you don't want to go to work and your body's resisting it so hard, but once you go, you get in the zone and it's not so bad, you know, and like I feel like it's kind of like that. Like if you're like say a native English speaker and all of a sudden your body's telling you to do things in Japanese, then I think there's gonna be a little resistance, you know. But once you get used to it, you just get in the zone and you don't think in English anymore. But the thing is, to get into that zone, you have to be doing it all the time, and once you get out of that zone, it's hard to get back in, you know. And um, So I think, and I've seen it happen. I've seen these exchange students who are clearly like thinking in their native language and then talking, and it's really easy to tell the difference between who's in the zone and who's not. And I'm kind of rambling with this question, but basically, when your whole life is in Japanese, you're in the zone all the time, and it just gets really easier and easier to output. And so my outputting got a lot better for sure. And also you learn the thing about outputting too is that like when you watch scripted shows and stuff, it's kind of hard to like know how to get yourself out of a hole you dug in your words because like it's all scripted, right? Like it's all perfect. But when you start outputting a lot and you start listening to real output from other people, um, you start to learn the tips and tricks on how to dig yourself out of these holes. So even if you screw up something, you can like correct yourself or like like sort of rephrase or like not say weird things that people wouldn't say. Like so in that way, my output improved a lot. It became a lot more colloquial and it became a lot more like actual Japanese rather than like weird gaijin Japanese from like guys who watch too much anime and like you know and also kanji. Reading like the thing is my reading and understanding of like everything I didn't really feel like it improved more than if I had been back home because I was getting honestly about the same amount of input but like for example like with my classes yeah they were good but I could have just watched lectures on YouTube, you know, there's nothing stopped me from doing that, but having to write reports and having to like write by hand, that improved a lot for sure. Writing by hand is still kind of difficult for me though. I'd rather type on a computer still, but I think that has to do. I still think that has to do with that principle of getting into the zone. I think I'm just not in the zone when it comes to writing yet. Though when whatever. Anyways, so yeah, to answer that question, yeah, my kanji and my conversation skills got a lot better, and my did I become more native like an N? Well, I improved definitely. Did you find it easy to make Japanese friends, or were you lonely most of the time? I love that second part. Were you lonely most of the time? Uh, yeah, it was pretty easy to make friends. I think especially compared to back home, there's a lot more events and people really put an emphasis on human relations, and it's slightly easier to make friends. But that being said, um, if you weren't good at making friends back home and you were really like just not popular, don't expect to just suddenly be popular in Japan. You can't do the same shit, and it just goes what I was saying earlier. Uh, it's the same anywhere in the world, you know. Like everybody wants the same things. Everybody wants connections and blah blah blah, and it's like the same rules apply, to making friends, and you know, if you weren't good at making friends back home, don't expect to pull the same moves and just put in no effort and be popular in Japan. I was horrible. I was just a really nerdy, shy guy. I would just go to school, go to work, and stay home and do nothing. Well, by do nothing, I mean watch Japanese. But I had like barely any friends, and all my other friends were basically NEETs too. And I was horribly unpopular throughout my whole life. And I came to Japan and I was like, you know what? I have this chance to start from zero. I'm gonna make a really big effort to be as active as I can. And I made so many friends. And the thing is, like these people, they weren't just like fake friends, you know. Like I noticed that being good at Japanese isn't the way to make friends. Go do something and have people be able to recognize you for something other than being a gaijin. Like I play drums, right? I've been playing drums for 8 years, so I went to the rock club and I played drums, and people saw me and they started asking me to be in a band, and we'd talk, and the fact that I was a gaijin or like my Japanese or anything, that conversation never came up with them because they didn't look at me as gaijin guy. They looked at me as their drummer. I was, something other than a gaijin to them, and I think that's really important to making good friends. Not just, you know, if you're having conversations about the Japanese language or English with someone like all the time, there's a good chance that those people may not be your real friends, and they may just be using you to have those interesting conversations. So they are interesting, and you can make good friends doing that. I'm just saying, like, try to have people try to do something that will make people recognize you for something other than being a gaijin, because that's how you make real friends. If people are willing to look past that, then they're your friend. um oh, that's it. That's all the questions. um Man, there's something that I'm like forgetting to say in this uh in this like video that I really wanted to mention, but I forgot what it was. So I guess I'm just gonna let it go. But yeah, uh, good stuff. I don't really know how to end this video. Basically, I don't know. I guess I want to say I sort of intended this to be the the happy version of Nick's video, because while Nick went through some tough shit, uh, I just want people to know that there is like good things about Japan, and I haven't talked to Nick in a long time, but I don't know. I mean, like you can put people in boxes, but it's like there are like I definitely there's people are still on a spectrum, man. I gotta say, I met some really rude ass people who was here. I met some really polite people, and there is a common ground, like where like Japanese culture is here and American or European or whatever culture is here, and the Japanese people would do this, all of them would do this in this situation, and that does hold true. What he said in that video does hold true about being able to put people in boxes like that, and how people tend to follow the group, and do what they think is best for their group. But um, what happened to Nick was sort of a not a special case, but a pretty um, extraordinary thing. And I just want people to know that, like, you know, um, be careful, but if you play it safe and just, don't stir up the pot too much and just try to have a good time and, um, just try, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to say, like, it's not all bad, Like, yeah, there's potholes and there's, I don't know what you call that. Um, like, pitfalls. There's pitfalls to be aware of. But, I mean, don't don't lose all hope if you fall into one of those pitfalls, man. Like, you can climb out of that thing and you'll be fine and you'll learn a lesson and it's all right. Like you can. I'm just trying. When I watched Nick's video, I got very scared about studying abroad, and I was really nervous and worried about it, and worried that I was gonna fall victim to the same kind of thing. And I actually did, sort of, but it was like, well, first of all, I didn't get excommunicated like Nick, and it was a lot more of a light wound for me, but like, just like, you know, um, I still found Japan fun, and I think a lot of people will too. And I think it's really worth doing studying abroad, and just don't worry too much. Just focus on having a good time. Don't hang out with people. If people were willing to excommunicate you and you thought they were your friends, and they weren't your friends, and you shouldn't, the good. You didn't get to spend more time with them. Happened to me with some people. It'll probably happen to you, and you know what? Just focus. Focus on having a good time. That's all I'm trying to say. Focus on learning and making experience out of it, and getting a solid image of Japan so that you know if you want to live there or if it's in the cards for you or not. That's what it's about. I guess I'm gonna end this thing. Thanks for watching this whole hour-long thing, man. Whoever sat through this, you are true, true gentlemen and gentlewomen. Fuck me, man. I need to stop this before I say something stupid. Okay. um, yeah. Have a good one. If you have any questions, I do answer them in my PMs or whatever. So yeah. Sorry, it's just kind of um crude, but I enjoyed talking about my experience, and I hope people can learn something from it. So yeah, take care. Uh, yeah, if anybody else has ever had any experiences studying abroad, maybe leave a comment and leave your own advice for other people and stuff. So yeah, okay, bye.